Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited that we have another trifecta that is very important and contributes to the massive, deep cellular regeneration. And so, another revelation this last week was how to explain how a person could regenerate organs and limbs even if they were born without them. And that was one of the questions from the Ohio Attorney General, which I did my best way back when to answer that question with the little research that I did. Mostly back in 2017, 2018, my research was more of a surface, superficial level research that still answered people's questions, but it really didn't get to the root of like the step-by-step process of how things came to be and why, my claims were what they were. But what I was promoting was more of a broad-based concept that definitely had merit and credibility, but it wasn't fully substantiated, but it was attempting to be substantiated. So when I answer the question about how organs and limbs can be regenerated without, even if you're born without them, it was the fact that, if you get a cut on your skin and your skin's the largest organ, you basically regrew an organ. I mean, that was a very micro level, macro level explanation of why I could say that someone could potentially regrow limbs and organs even if you're born without them. Well, if you're born without them, how the heck could you regrow something that was never there? Well, you know that the human body has a specific design. I mean, I don't say the human body. Humanity has a specific design. They have two arms, two legs, a nose, ears, mouth. All of it is a part of the adaptability of this environment. And when people have anomalous mutations, it messes with their growth process and in their development, as well as then what they ultimately turn out to be as they mature. However, what if the human body was able to get the nutrients? Because why people are born without an organ or a limb is because, let's say the mother was exposed to radiation, or let's say, she, I don't know, had some other type of toxic substance that overwhelmed the body and it affected her birth canal, or it affected the eggs or the sperm, or it was a genetic anomaly that was never corrected throughout that heretic line in the family's genealogy. Okay, and so we all know that people pass along discrepancies in the genes generation after generation. At some point, we can break those generational mutations, anomalous mutations, and fix the body. I just did with the J juice. I mean, the PMDD and whatever else that I inherited from my parents, I just broke that generational curse. Okay, because let's say if I had a kid, my kid would have the same predispositions. She would have the PMDD, or he would have some other genetic anomaly. And so it is possible to break the generational curses of heart attacks, strokes, and all of that. But one of the main things is understanding that blood, air, and water is what brings life, to all of biodiversity. If you don't have air, if you don't have blood, if you don't have water, you have nothing. You have no biodiversity, because your plants need water and air. Animals need water and air, and some have blood. Some live off the blood. Let's say, like, a mosquito. The mosquito sucks your blood or sucks the blood off of other animals. Okay, and that's how viruses also get passed too, because they are like the vectors. So one of the trifecta is, besides body, mind, and spirit, is air, blood, and water. And so how a person could then wake up or develop legs when they were born without them is because finally somebody was able to create a formula to be able to open up blood vessels that were dead. So let's say a person that was born without legs, okay, or born without feel. They have legs, but there's no feeling in the legs. I don't think anyone's born without legs unless there's a major mutation, like, yeah, major radiation or something that happened in the womb. But when someone is born without feeling in the legs, or they're born without a specific organ, well, it's more like the body the body wasn't able to get the blood and the blood vessels developed because of a specific issue. And so when you finally energize the body with nutrients, air, oxygen, probiotics, salts, electrolytes, all of that, and it's gone through the right way through the gut, because the gut is like the central processing unit of your whole body. And so if you don't feed your gut correctly and you have malabsorption, of course you're going to perpetuate the anomalies, the negative mutations. So when somebody is born a certain way and they're able to take in a nutrition that heals and seals the gut, and then they're able to maximize nutrition, then what happens is then prostaglandins, as well as other cells and things that are in the blood, are able to go and wake up asleep cells. So right now we're kind of working from the standpoint of people have put their cells to sleep, and we're waking them up. So they're there, they haven't disappeared, unless, yeah, even if you take them out, they're still there. There's still that design that's there, but people have not given their body what it needs to wake it up and develop it again, regenerate it again. But now it's like, let's look at somebody who was born without an organ or born without something. Mother Nature is so technical that when you finally do energize your immune system to increase the dilation to your blood vessels, and even the ones that aren't there will be developed. Let's say when someone is born, has their arm amputated. Okay, when you increase the blood flow to the end of the arm, that's when the potential, if you can handle the pain, that's when the potential to regrow that arm, which could take for years and years, because I'm telling you, my 6-day headache was the development as well as the waking up parts of my brain that have been asleep for years and years, potentially centuries. Okay, so you would have to endure a massive amount of pain to regrow, to regenerate. However, it's not totally impossible. So blood, okay? I mean, you got to figure out when you're waking up parts of your body that have been asleep, or you're regenerating parts of your body that were, I don't know, like mutated from something that happened in the womb. Okay, here's the blood. If blood didn't circulate throughout our bodies carrying oxygen and nutrients, people wouldn't be able to live. Okay? Hey, thanks, Tiffany. Blood is so important to life that the body constantly makes new blood. So when you eat, you make new blood. Multiple components of blood. There are multiple components to blood: plasma, red cells, white cells, and platelets. Approximately 55% of your body is plasma. 45% of your body is red blood cells. And the rest is made up of white and blood cells and platelets. Okay, plasma. What's plasma? Plasma is mostly made up of water and salts. Salt. So you need salt in your diet. Absorbed to the person's digestive tract each day. See, if you don't get enough water and you don't get enough salt, the body is going to have to try to make you retain water. And this is why people who are obese or have high blood pressures, because they're freaking dehydrated. You want to lower your high blood pressure? You drink freaking water. Okay? So plasma is mostly made up of water and salts absorbed through a person's digestive tract each day. It's the liquid part of the blood and works as a transportation system. All of the elements of blood are transported in it. Okay? Important nutrients, salts, and hormones are circulated throughout your body in plasma. Waste generated by cells, it is also present in the part of the body, in part of the blood. Okay, so blood carries away stuff. It carries in the good stuff, carries out the bad stuff. So, when you finally are able to dilate your blood vessels, because the reason why people have asleep blood vessels or they have no movement in parts of their neck, they're paralyzed, is because their blood vessels have been cut off or constricted. Let's say you have very limited motion, okay, or you have very limited feeling, or you have circulatory issues. You have constricted blood vessels because of genetic predispositions along with modern medicine and holistic remedies. And people who are not feeding themselves correctly, they're very, very highly discriminatory in their food supply. Because people who are only eating vegetables and maybe some chili juice, but not eating like the meat, are actually starving their body of the necessary components that make up the blood cells. Okay? This is why you can't be discriminatory in the food supply. So red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes, okay, the majority of blood cells floating in plasma are red blood cells. Production of red blood cells is controlled by your kidneys, signaling to your body to do this by generating a specific hormone. Okay? After that happens, they are created in your body's bone marrow, the soft tissue inside your bones, and are released in your body's bloodstream from here. See, so when somebody is highly, malnourished and they have major leaky gut, this is where the bones get depleted. Okay, so during the approximately 4 months they're alive, the red blood cells play a major role as an oxygen transportation system for your body. Inside of your red blood cells is a protein known as hemoglobin. It's why your blood appears red and helps make sure that the oxygen in the air you breathe reaches the rest of your body. Okay, so when you have constricted blood vessels because of your practices, this is why people have bodies that die off systematically. The spleen continuously destroys millions of old red blood cells, recycling the iron to make new red cells. Okay, so people get their spleen taken out, which I don't know how many people get their spleen taken out. White blood cells and platelets. White blood cells, leukocytes, help our body fight off infection. That's the excess antibodies. Infection is antibodies. There are different types of them that fight off germs, help with blood clotting, and destroy bacteria that shouldn't be in your body. The major of them are also generated in your bone marrow. Platelets, thrombocytes, are just like red blood cells, and most of your white blood cells generated in your bone marrow. When you have, for example, a cut, they work to help your body regulate the flow of bleeding when possible and begin the healing process at the source of the wound. Bone marrow. So how does bone marrow do all of this? It contains stem cells. The formal name for this kind is a hematopoietic. That can develop into all the different cells, red and white and platelets, that a person needs. Okay, so that's pretty much this article. But you see that why people can regenerate their legs and arms and potentially, even organs, is because when you drink the J juice, you release the prostaglandins, okay, which is a hormone that has been suppressed. That dilates your blood vessels to allow the blood to flow to places of your body that were very dark and dead. And then you start feeling the pain. So every single time a person gets a headache, it's their body trying to regenerate. And the longer it lasts, it's the more that the body is trying to regenerate or create. I mean, I don't know, some of these viruses could be adding more brain cells to your body. We don't know what capacity and how people evolve. Okay? I mean, when you think about it, we kind of do, but we kind of don't. Because, we know that viruses did contribute to the evolution of man to where we are today. But have we been suppressed for such a long time, and finally our knowledge has been able to wake up the blood cells and wake up the parts of our body that were dead from evolving Or is the body being able to create new ones from the data being uploaded by the virus? It's hard to say. But I mean, you think about Neanderthals, they were pretty smart, but they weren't advanced as us, but they were pretty smart. And then they evolved into like this Homo sapien. Well, maybe, the Neanderthals definitely had the blood or had the brain cells, but they weren't activated until they became more knowledgeable through evolution. So we probably, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much, I mean, did somebody take Einstein's brain and then figure out how much he used of it? I don't know, but you figure that the geniuses in our society probably have a lot more activated brain cells than those that are sort of like Neanderthalic, I guess, that live by their hormones. And so it could stand to reason that yes, we're either waking up parts of our brain cells that have been asleep or we're generating them. Could you regenerate something? I mean, I guess we could be regenerating brain cells that were put to sleep for years, yes, because we suppressed it. It's hard to say. But remember, we have to adapt to the society that we live in. And the society also has to do with the air, the blood, and the water. And so when you have things in the air and things in the water, and you have a microbiome out there with which is the viruses, the parasites, the protozoa, proteins, bacteria, and fungus, and that changes on a constant basis based upon different regions and then how they all hang out together and create and mutate, we still have to adapt to that. So we could potentially, with this virus, be creating new neural pathways, as well as could be waking up old ones that were never turned on. So it just depends on where you are on the evolutionary scale and how much did you really how much did you really adapt and evolve prior to the COVID? Okay? So, welcome all the headaches. And if they disappear quickly, like it happened for Tiffany, that's so awesome. If you have a 6-day long headache, that's awesome too. Definitely embrace it. Try to expose yourself to people out there. I mean, as far as the virus, because no matter what, you're going to be exposed, but you might as well get all the data. Like I said, to people, every so often go visit a hospital. Go and get more data, because every single hospital, even though they're full of sick people, those sick people are just people that can't handle the upgrades. And so their body shuts down. But with you as a jilly juicer are going to always, always be supported correctly with the viruses that are out there. And it will just be another upload of amazing amount of data that's going to increase your strength and your awareness and your strategy and your effectiveness in just everything that you do. So don't be afraid of these viruses. Now, I know we're in a world where there are weak people that also want to be thought of too, and we have to weigh that out and not come off too cocky. But let me tell you, your ability to evolve in this environment and gaining knowledge from different people and all of their issues is probably one of the best things you could do for yourself as a jilly juicer. Because no matter what, you will survive all these crazy environments. But you have to understand that, yeah, every single time you upgrade, it's going to be a painful process if you still have work to be done. Okay? So I'm glad that finally, I'm able to explain. Now, sort of as far as someone that's born without them, that's going to be interesting. When someone is born, I don't know if anyone's, born without an organ, that's kind of easy because it's there. The spirit is there. When you're born without an organ, even if you're born without legs? Well, yeah, I mean, those are, when things don't develop because there has been a shut off at the chromosomal level. You know that if you actually put those chromosomes in with the jelly juice, you could see then those chromosomes maybe go back to what it was originally intended before the mutation. But humanity has a very specific design, okay? And what happens when people are born with major anomalies is because of the impact of and the influence of the environment that messed up with that specific design. And you have to correct it. It has to be corrected in some way, or you get lack of quality of life. Okay? So I'm going to have to figure out how to explain how the jelly juice can even have somebody regrow arms and limbs, even if they're born without them, which means I got to study, the science why somebody is born with that. And then how the jelly juice, because really, when you think about the gut, yeah, if they have a gut, yeah, if you have a gut, then you have access to that design. That's what it is. If you don't have a gut, then there's no way you're going to be able to regrow anything based upon the actual God's design of the human body, of males and females and vice versa, females and males. Okay, so the gut it really is, it's the, what do you call it, the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. It is the central processing unit of the human body. So when you get your gut healed and sealed, finally it's able to send off the messages to make sure the legs get developed. And look at growing pains. I remember going through growing pains as a kid. So imagine if somebody was born without arms and legs because there was anomalous things that happen at the chromosomal level. And then they are born without the legs and the arms, and then they get fed the jelly juice. And then they're in pain in their arms and their legs because now instead of growing their legs in the womb, because they were, for them to be born alive, they had to have the heart, they had to have the vital organs be developed first, and then they're able to breathe. But now they're having an issue with walking. So then it's up to the practitioner to then feed them jelly juice. And then the gut finally gets healed and sealed. And then the child goes through the growing pains of growing up. Yeah, they're going to be a bit behind the people that have been able to develop their arms and legs in the womb. But they're going to have those kind of growing pains happen outside the womb. And it's going to be painful. See, that's what the big thing that the medical and holistic industry doesn't want to torture the people in the world. But if to have a quality of life and a continuous life, you have to go through hell. So this is why we have to guide reproduction carefully and not allow anybody just reproduce, because then that's a lot of work to fix the problems that the parents created for their children. That's the issue. That's why the Georgia Guidestones exist, because we have so many anomalies and so many handicaps and so many issues out there that, yeah, we don't have to give them the jelly juice and they don't have to be in pain. And you can say, oh yeah, well, who are you to say that their quality of life is lacking? Well, I'm telling you, when you know you're going to die because you know you have disabilities, and even if you don't know you're going to die, the fact that someone goes through maybe a very small window of relatively okay life, and then their body breaks down systematically, that's torture in of itself. You think that's humane to watch somebody go through a degradation process? No matter what, if you want to live, you're going to have to deal with those predispositions. No matter what, you can't escape it. But the medical holistic industry is like, well, since you were born with maybe a 5-year window of yummy, opportunity to be sort of, or a 10-year or 20-year opportunity to be sort of productive, relatively pain-free. So, you only get 20 years of real productivity, and the rest is the growing pains and the dying pains. So 2/3 of your life is painful. Maybe 1/3 of your life, you actually have relative okay, homeostasis. That's torture. That is torture. Because I'm telling you, growing up is not easy and dying is not easy. But that little window of opportunity that people have is what people live for. And I'm saying, you know what happens if we had 3/3 of a person's life or actually 2/3 of a person's life be amazing and 1/3 be difficult? What would that be difficult part? The growing up. But once you grow up and you mature, you don't have to go down that degradation, that painful, torturous path of death. And I see people dying in body, mind, and spirit all the time. They've pushed people away from their life. Their body is breaking down. They can't take in new information, and they are constantly complaining about life. That is the death process. And the grow up process is like, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to conform. I got and making mistakes and breaking the law, if there's some. And that is a very painful growth process. It's all even relative to who your parents are and your environment. So guiding reproduction carefully makes freaking sense, because the growing up process and the death process is the most painful freaking process ever. I gotta write that down. So 2/3 of people's lives is painful. 1/3 is relatively normal to them. And then you have death. So with the JJ, 2/3 of homeostasis, enjoyment, 1/3 of pain, and you actually live continuously. See, the odds of the jelly juice is far greater and much better. I would say the odds. The quality of jelly juice people are going to have a much more, well, I don't say the quality. Doing the J juice is going to give you the odds of a much more quality life or something. I got to figure out how to say that. But right now, our current life, it's very painful. And you're watching your kids grow up painfully, and you're watching your parents die painfully. And that's not what I want. Okay? I mean, no, that's not what I want. So, yeah. The gut really truly is. So that's how the gut is the CPU of the original design of the human body. So I'm actually answering the OAG's questions again, 2 years later, in a much more thorough form. So what I think I'm going to do, even with my next book, like after this book that comes out, is go back to those questions and answer them in a very different way. So, and then maybe I might submit that to the OAG again, send them an email and say, this is the actual scientific, backed by science, backed by your own people, your own government, the Cleveland Clinic, and all of the peer-reviewed stuff, that once you dilate your blood vessels and you release or you express the prostaglandins and you dilate your blood vessels, and blood is able to send messages to the asleep parts of the body, that's exactly how you could regrow organs and limbs, even if you're born without them. Because the gut is the central processing unit of the whole original design of the human body. And humans are just another pattern in nature. Because you look at leaves when part of it's dead, right? And some of it's alive. Well, something happened to where, let's say that leaf on this side is windburned or something, hit it, like let's say exhaust. And so you see a half-dead leaf. Half of it's alive, half of it's dead. Well, that's just like the human body in this society today. It's the tree is still alive, the leaf is still alive, but half of it's dead. Well, what would happen if we woke up and brought to life every aspect of the human body? Imagine the possibilities for humanity. Okay? We would actually evolve faster than where we are right now. Right now, we're very stagnated. And that's because we're dealing with the zombie apocalypse. We are literally dealing with the zombie apocalypse. So blood, air, and water. And the gut is the central processing unit. And then, yeah. So there's a lot more to be written. The book that's coming out June 2020 really laid out the groundwork in the correct way so people understand the microbiome, sugar and salt, and why the diet is not necessary, and the antibiotic lifestyles. And just introducing this in a much better way with the right information, with no discrimination and no politics and no anti-vax. And that's the proper way of me introducing J-Juice. And then after that, I'm going to build upon that, because people have to understand that right now where we're going is not a very good direction, especially with modern medicine. Vaccines, I'd say, are the only things that have viability and credibility. Everything else in the holistic allopathic world has no viability or credibility when it comes to quality of life and longevity. But vaccines will let you know how messed up you are. Not because they're messing you up, it's because that's the barometer. It actually induces the immune system to release or express the prostaglandins. And then you're going to have to figure out how to support your body to fix those anomalies. Okay? So, yeah, Bill Gates is a freaking genius. He really is. He's not a medical doctor, and there's a reason why, because he knows, he knows that no matter what, people are going to die if they don't get some kind of intermediary. But now we have to figure this. I mean, I love life. Do we want to let Mother Nature really do a number on society, or do we want to sort of help people, give them the opportunity to fix their body? And which means that we have to teach them how to do it. Okay, so just merely having people be born just because they can doesn't mean that's right. Just because you can get pregnant doesn't mean you should. Just because you have sex doesn't mean you should get pregnant. Okay? Um, yeah. And so I could see why guiding reproduction carefully is very, very important with the Georgia Guidestones. Okay, anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. I gotta go. Bye.